Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, coming at you from the private area in my cafe where I can people watch the folks coming in, but I'm probably looking for some cuties or, people coming in with dogs. That's what I count as cuties. But anyway, you can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catching me where I'm live. BlizzCon 2026 is 10 months away, but hey, let's just sell some tickets right now. In an announcement that came far earlier than expected, Blizzard's selling tickets at an early bird special price before they go on a normal sale later this month. As for the con itself, the details are pretty slim. There's going to be a classic cup featuring the Warcraft RTS and StarCraft and even Heroes of the Storm, but we can't forget about the really exciting parts, and by that I mean you. Being surrounded by familiar Warcraft-loving energy. It's kind of like a warm hug, just don't forget the deodorant or the hand sanitizer. The ticketing format is a little different, with a regular pass, but also a la carte upgrades for reserved seating and an exclusive charity event, and then access to the Darkmoon Fair. This already sounds like an improvement over 2023's BlizzCon that tried to have this premium portal pass kind of badge with special access to events during the convention, but it didn't play out too well from reports. With this, the perks are at least entirely separate events that buyers can feel like they can enjoy. The one thing that has me weirded out about this coming BlizzCon is mostly with the timing. It's kind of weird that BlizzCon's doing a Saturday-Sunday thing as opposed to the usual Friday-Saturday. But it's also suspicious they're holding it in September and not November like they have been. And we've learned in recent years that Blizzard tends to try and line up a lot of things together. If my guesses are right, and they always are, sarcasm, BlizzCon 2026 is happening just a little bit after Season 2 of Midnight begins. Now, unless Midnight is only going to be a 2-season expansion, and I doubt that, this is not going to be a WoW-focused BlizzCon, but hey, you know what? There might be a few surprises. So it's only somewhat surprising that after tickets went on sale, I went back a few hours later to see if they were sold out, and they were not, which is interesting. That alone sparks any number of theories, including, but not limited to, how people feel about Blizzard and, by extension, Microsoft. Games we're likely to hear or not hear about. Across the world, there's considering like the state of the economy, and then there's how comfortable people feel about traveling to the United States. Regardless of where you stand ideologically or politically, it's hard to deny the air of instability. International travelers might not be feeling the confidence they used to feel when traveling here. I'd like to think, though, that BlizzCon is the kind of space where we can still escape and be gamers first. I want to talk about this interview Ian Hazelcost has had with the Unshackled Fury podcast because it got a lot of folks talking, that is, talking smack. The Wowhead Breakdown captured the bullet points pretty well, but I always encourage you to watch the whole thing to get the full context. In the interview, Ian pretty flatly dismissed the claims of all these upcoming gameplay changes and the shifts on add-on philosophy that they're leading to a future console release of World of Warcraft. Paraphrasing, if they were developing for a console, then they would just say it. I mean, they're already making these huge, sweeping changes to simplify rotations and reduce button bloat, totally upending the add-on segment of the WoW industry, but no, let's draw the line at developing for a controller because, I don't know. I mean, he makes a good point. What's the reason to hide that? The Blizzard stance to this question has consistently been something to the effect of, there are no plans, but never say never. These all sound quite reasonable, if not for one thing. It comes from the mouth of Ian Hazelcost, and to many, he is not a man to be trusted. I mean, after all, since 2008, he's been literally destroying the game, 8 years as a game designer, and then 9 years as the longest-serving game director by far, but thanks to those 4 years as a practicing attorney, I guess he'll never pass the purity test. It's a fascinating filter, words coming from devs whose job history we don't know. I mean, yeah, that's okay. That's just canned PR speak, no problem. But from Ian, it's this carefully crafted half-truth lawyer speak. But anyway, some people don't like him. WoW for console is not coming in the near future, and let's move on. One particular point really stood out for me. He was asked what was the biggest evolution to the WoW community, and his answer was, it was basically the internet. I'll let him speak for himself on this one.
But I think, as a game that's been going for 20 years now, World of Warcraft and its community have really grown up with the internet. And the way that online communities and the spread of information and discussions have evolved, I think have inevitably shaped how we approach the game and how we approach speaking to our community. What you guys do is awesome, so I don't want to paint a very broad brush here, but I think like the importance and the rise of influencers and content creators in World of Warcraft, but really all gaming spaces, I think is something that we've, really had to think about how it affects the way our community thinks about the game. Using BlizzCon as an example, and I've been to every BlizzCon except the very first. Been to all of them since 2008 as a developer. Talking to tons of folks, as I would always do. I would always want to get feedback, ask people like, hey, if there's something we could change about the game to make it better for you, what would that be? Prior to around 2016 or so, 2017, you'd get incredibly diverse answers from people. You'd get answers that reflected their personal experience, the things that they and their guildmates complained about or talked about on Vent or whatever at the time that they wanted to, share a piece of their mind with me about. More recently, and this is just how information works, it's much more common to have someone be like, okay, I love the game for the most part, but like there's a few things you need to change. And as they list the first couple, I'm like, I know exactly which video you watched. I know who made that video. And I know what the next 3 things you're going to say are. That doesn't make that feedback less valid, but it's definitely much less organic, much more homogenous than it used to be.
I remember saying something similar to this like years ago, actually around 2016 or 2017, when I lamented how, I guess, tiresome it was trying to listen to people's feedback about like some certain thing, but I would keep hearing not just the same feedback, but like it was the way it was said, it was the word usage, it was like reposting a meme on Twitter or Reddit or whatever. And sure enough, it would usually be a Reddit post or a video or a stream who would say something and it would echo throughout the community. This is influencing at work. Ian went on to talk about the Mythic Plus conversation from earlier in the expansion. There was a lot of blowback against affixes, but it looked almost like a universal talking point among players at every level, from the high level who were shouting the loudest and affected them the most, down to the levels where affixes weren't even fully activated, and even further down to where it intimidated players to even try keys at all because of what these other people are saying. And then when keys were revamped in Season 2, the top players who were, again, most affected by this, they quieted it down, and so did everyone else, even though affixes were still a thing. There's a lot more at play here. This was just Ian trying to make one example of how gamers can be influenced by the loudest voices. While the feelings might generally be the same, there could be some nuanced and personal details missed that just won't get to devs because folks will just refer to what so-and-so said. It's nothing new. A new alpha build dropped a bit late this week with some cool additions like the music tracks for housing. As expected, they're very cozy, but there was a missed opportunity, I think, because going into edit mode, it doesn't switch the music up into like some different vibe if you're familiar with how The Sims worked. The house chest now has an upper limit of 5,000 decor items. Now, this isn't measured by the budget value of items. You know how they have a value between like 1 and 5? It's just 5,000 items, period. It's pretty high, although my 1,500 candle setup, that might not be a good idea. Long term, this is something to at least worry about a little bit later, but with so many kinds of decor available, it stands to reason that eventually, even from regular use, that 5,000 limit is going to be met over time. So my hopes are that when the time comes, these limits will be looked at and considerations will be made to raise them, like in a future patch or expansion. It'll be a sucky feeling when we get to this, I don't know, the next expansion and we run out of space and we have to make some difficult decisions. And it's very possible exceptional builders may run into this much sooner than later. I also have some good news on the profession front. I've been looking each week, and this time I'm very happy to report that with decor crafting orders, the client can now provide lumber when creating an order. Now, this is great news for clients who can do something with their lumber now, and more importantly, the crafter who now isn't entirely burdened with trying to supply the lumber for other people's crafts, and they can focus on the lumber that they earn for their own decor or to craft what they hope is valuable on their realm. On the flip side, it turns out lumber will be a part of Midnight Decor professions as well, with lumber added to zones and also put back onto recipes. Like, they were there for a bit and then they were gone, which made me speculate, and now they're back again. So this got me changing up another bit of speculation of mine, where I said lumber was a legacy-only resource, and it's got me wondering how this account-wide gathering skill is going to work. Now here's a guess, because I love doing that. Lumberjacking, or whatever they're going to call it, it's going to be a bona fide warband profession. Any character can do it, and there could be skill ups to increase yield in general, or soft specializations to maybe eventually master harvesting lumber from a certain continent or expansion, and eventually all of them. Now I gotta say, not hearing much about this a month away from early access, it does have me a little bit nervous. Now we need to talk about Hearthsteel. It's a new housing currency and there is a lot of chatter about it. We'll get to it, but first, in case you missed the early announcement, here's what's up. Hearthsteel is a currency designed for use in a new kind of shop designed only for housing. So if this ain't your thing, you can check out this conversation altogether. The vibe in this new shop is going to be different. The items we expect to see here, they're not going to be the kind of thing we typically see in World of Warcraft. So, for example, we shouldn't expect a cool Paladin Order Hall thing to show up, or a Titan-based table, or a dangly set of Xal'atath feet ornaments, or anything like that. So here's a sample of what to expect from the shop. The themes being cherry blossoms, which I'll definitely talk about later, and garden gnomes, which are not the Warcraft kind of gnomes. The aim is the shop will provide decor that is, very cool, but it doesn't seem to be like the thing that we would see as like a quest reward or an achievement. You know how sometimes we see stuff on the trading post or in the in-game shop and it doesn't feel like it doesn't quite fit with anything? That's the kind of vibe we should expect to see. According to the blog post, to get Hearthsteel, you can opt to first buy a WoW token with gold from the auction house. As you may know, the WoW token can be redeemed for game time or BattleNet balance. The plan is to have a new option, a third option, to redeem it for Hearthsteel, and then you can use the Hearthsteel to buy whatever from the decor store. I'd like to say that's it, but naturally you can also buy Hearthsteel directly from the store with real money. And that fact is why today's weekly is going to be this long, because the feelings behind it sucked up all the nuance in this conversation. Before I go on, I want to get some personal takes out of the way. Like, how do I really feel about this? How does buying Hearthsteel with real money affect me? It doesn't. It's why just now I framed Hearthsteel as this special in-game currency that starts with gold first, because that's how it looks from my point of view as a player. Now, as a commentator, absolutely, I hear you. And there are a lot of very good points being made. However, many comments willfully dismissed the article too, which almost painfully addressed almost every talking point being made on the internet right now. I went into this topic like many of you. I was kind of like, bleh, over the idea of another virtual currency. I figured, it's not necessary and that we should be able to just buy decor directly from the existing store. But after some reading and understanding, I've come to at least accept Blizzard's case for why that idea would be worse for consumers. Now we're going to break all this down with all the boring and unexciting nuance. The other day, I guessed incorrectly that Hearthsteel would be this benign resource tied to endeavors. Like, that's what I get for speculating based on just data mining, and here we are today. Hearthsteel will be a traditional feeling premium resource, but is Blizzard following the usual patterns we've seen in mobile games, or I guess closer to home like the Diablo 4 store, or are they making good faith efforts to make purchases more fair for players? Now, Blizzard claims the vast majority of housing items will be earnable in-game, basically the same philosophy as the current in-game store. Now, according to data mining, there are currently 19 items flagged as shop decor, with what I'm guessing 17 to be confirmed to be sold with Hearthsteel. This is corroborated by the provided images showing these themes. Of course, this number is expected to grow over time too. According to the Housing Hub, that 17 is part of the over 2,200 decor items available as of this build, between decor that has been fully identified and others that haven't been attached to a vendor or an achievement or quest, and maybe the store too. It's not super duper confirmed. That number is also expected to grow as we approach midnight and, pretty much every patch going forward. A 1% ratio of shop items to everything else, it's a pretty good start, I think. Now, whether we care about that ratio, it's up to us individually. Like for some, one item in the shop is one item too much. For others, they find it reasonable for the company to have an interest in, making money and keeping the lights on while knowing their power as a consumer to either spend or save. I want to add another personal take here. I've said many, many moons ago, before player housing was even announced, that I wanted something like player housing so I can express my achievements in the World of Warcraft well beyond just the achievement menu. That's an extremely, extremely important value to me, even today. If Blizzard sticks to their plan, the shop, it's not really going to have anything to reflect not just my accomplishments, but my experiences in the game because, based on what I'm seeing so far with this lack of familiarity, I don't think I'll have any interest in what's in the shop unless they add like a functioning espresso machine, and then, I'll be slamming a few WoW tokens in there. And we gotta wait a minute here. So Blizzard claims housing items based on things that already exist in Azeroth will not be sold in the shop. And that's not entirely true. I remember this cherry blossom tree I showed you earlier. Obviously it's not the same thing, but these do exist over in Pandaria. So hey Blizz, the very first premium housing items you're showing off, along with your new philosophies, they are in fact tied to something that already exists in Azeroth. Whoops. Now, maybe I'm being nitpicky because it's not the exact same item, but I do sense this contradiction here. Critics are going to point out that this new and shiny and high-res thing looks way better than the old and dated thing, which, by the way, isn't available as decor as of this build. So the only way you can have a cherry blossom tree is through the shop. I'm going to lump several points here, but Blizzard claims that we can buy items individually. The costs of these items will be easy to understand, as in we can call at a glance that, okay, this chair is like $2 or so. And the whole flow of spending money to buy currency, to buy housing, while it's already this multi-step thing, it's trying to be as pain-free as possible. Right. But there's a bit of pragmatism to consider here. Blizzard's out to make money. Duh. It's not a conspiracy theory. They made it quite clear many months ago that yes, some items would be in the shop, and currently we're at this 1%. I've critiqued numerous times that the best way for Blizzard to sell decor, again, is directly from the shop with regular cash using some button tucked off to the side just as it is now. But you know what? I think I was kind of sort of wrong on that one, because I failed to acknowledge the fact that companies like Blizzard deal with tons and tons of these small transaction fees. Now, really, that's their problem, right? It's their problem, not ours. Like, if I want to buy one chair for $1, I should be able to, I think. That was my thinking at the time, at least. Now, let's take a quick look at the Final Fantasy XIV store and the furniture they sell. I should point out that many of these items, or an equivalent of these items, at some point are available to earn from in-game events, and they're here for purchase outside of said events, while a handful of these, they are in fact sold exclusively in the store. But I'm here to mostly direct you to just the cost of these items. Check it out. They're sold directly with real money, very cool, but nothing here costs less than $5. So it's $5 for a single painting, or a chair, or a cherry blossom tree, how about that? On Square Enix's end, at least from my observation, I think they've more than covered their transaction fees by pretty much passing the cost off to customers and then some. Speaking for me, I'm not really interested in using a whole ass WoW token for 3 trees. It's no wonder why most companies rely on virtual currency to basically funnel users into making fewer and larger purchases that allows, at least on the surface, these cost savings. Of course, for the person who just wanted the one chair, that person might be forced into buying a denomination of currency that is much more than that one chair, and they may lose out on whatever currency is left over. This is one of the biggest pain points from critics railing against virtual currency, forcing users to throw their money into an ecosystem that most often they can't pull their money back out of. It's one of the many points the EU is fighting against with new guidelines and laws aimed at reducing predatory behavior in part of companies who push virtual currency on their storefronts. In fairness, the bullet points laid out in the blog post, they're making what I'd like to think is a good faith effort at addressing these things. They say that costs are clearly defined to where the ratios of Hearthsteel to real money are fixed and easy to understand. Another bullet point suggests you can buy Hearthsteel at friendly increments to minimize leftovers. They acknowledge it's a problem that users face. In fact, we deal with this to a certain extent with BattleNet balance denominations, which can be alleviated by putting in whatever balance we have left, followed by paying with real cash the difference. And maybe a system like that can be implemented here too. Let's take another quick peek at Elder Scrolls Online, which uses a virtual currency called crowns for all aspects of their store, including housing stuff. This here is a complete furniture bundle that's, after crown conversions, it goes for about $30. Now, this information comes secondhand, but I'm told generally furniture of this quality is craftable, but it's also so resource and time prohibitive, it's arguably more economical to just buy these outright or to take up the monthly subscription, which awards a stipend of crowns each month. But anyway, in this example, this bundle isn't being sold as a savings, as in it's not a collection of a bunch of individual decor smushed together into a single purchase and you're saving 30% for one bundle. No, it if you want like one of these chairs here, there's no other way to obtain it. You're going to buy this bundle. It also sucks that the site doesn't even give me like a complete list of exactly what I'm getting. I think I have to go to the in-game store to find out. So, I mean, good going, website. What Blizzard seems to want to do, based on this reading, is that they want to give players a bit more power over choosing the decor they want a la carte and use virtual currency to turn that into as few purchases as possible for their sake. At the same time, they want to point out there will also be preset bundles at a discounted feature as well. My expectation is that if I want to, any items included in the bundle should also be available a la carte at the non-bundle sale price. With a friendlier approach like that, it sends the message they're trying to make housing not just affordable, but actually be monetarily cheaper than in other games. Now, it's not like they're being altruistic either, because if people feel like there's a value, if they're fooled into thinking there's a value, they're likely to spend more, to maximize that savings on digital goods with infinite stock. And we also return to the WoW token, which isn't just a way to bypass almost everything I've been talking about, but it's also a wildcard. Midnight's going to launch sometime between February and March. That's the common prediction. Early access housing, along with the legacy housing economy, that's going to come in less than a month. At some point, I'm guessing not right at launch, but maybe soon after early access starts, Hearthsteel and the decor store are going to go live. The token price, meanwhile, has been steadily going up. Fortunately, the rest of the economy is also inflating across pretty much every sector in anticipation of early access, meaning lots of opportunities to make tons of gold if we're willing to put the work into it. Store-related stuff is not typically the kind of thing to be tested. It just goes live, right? So there's no choice but to leave feedback now, and you should. Comments here on this video, hey, that's fair game too. Like it's all good. If you want to trash talk the store and the philosophy and me and my takes on it, like it all helps to inform this nebulous opinion. I say this with confidence that the devs are looking at videos like these and looking at the feedback. Final decisions might not be up to them either, but making ourselves heard helps to steer that ship. And that includes speaking silently, but with your wallet. Because in the face of this entire conversation, sometimes the simplest approach is, and that's the show. I've been doing my share of watching and listening, and I've noticed this air of anxiety and panic among folks trying to prepare for housing, but they're feeling overwhelmed with the everything there is to get and all the gathering and all the other work involved and so on and so forth. I was hoping to have this ready earlier, but I want to make a guide on how to prepare, get that, for housing. My counterparts out in the YouTube space, all respect to them, they're doing a fantastic job of informing folks of all the reps to grind for and where to get recipes, all the new vendors, the total counts of how many order hall resources to gather, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. I want to come at this though from a different angle by setting up smaller goals in the context of early access instead of, racing for whatever the max decor limit's going to be. I want to help build on your education of using the very powerful tools available even right now, from add-ons to websites. I think that's going to be very helpful ahead of December, so stay tuned. A big thanks to the folks on the live streams. Reminder that a new Twitch drop is coming next week along with the start of beta, and everyone who pre-ordered the Epic Edition of Midnight are more than likely going to be in for this first round and will probably crush the servers. But hey, it's beta, and that's useful information for the devs, so show up. To our darlings over on Patreon, thanks for your generosity, and hello to you, viewer. If you made it to the end, you fed the algorithm. Now, if you don't mind, please like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.